I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined as always by the head coach, Marcus Freeman. Coach, a win's a win. Anytime you get it done, that's reason for celebration. You're now 7-3. What did this win over Navy teach you about your team?
They're resilient. We started fast, and which was a challenge that I had for them to come out of the locker room ready to go, and they did that. Mm-hmm. And in the second half, we wanted to finish the game with urgency, and we didn't do that. But somehow, some way, we found a way to execute, and we found a way to win, and we learned some valuable lessons during that game. And there's no better feeling for a head coach to be able to have those examples of ways we have to improve, but do it with a win.
What are the examples? What are the ways you're trying to improve now as you get set for the final two games of the season?
Well, the execution of two halves, and Navy's defensive plan wasn't that much different than the second half than it was the first half, but our execution wasn't where it needed to be offensively and defensively. The ability for them on the first drive of the second half to have a 16-play drive and take 10 minutes off the clock. It doesn't help our offense at all. They're sitting in the locker room. They're sitting on the sidelines ready to go out there and play. And then we got to respond. We can't get the ball tipped. We can't get interceptions. But defensively, the ability to respond in a sudden change situation, all those situations are so valuable. To have two-point plays that were live. You practice them all the time in practice, but to do them in a game situation, those were all situations that we'll utilize.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside, and when we come back, we'll break down the entire game between Notre Dame and Navy. Now time for this week's game breakdown. Coach, I want to start with this. You're playing Navy on the day after Veterans Day out there in Baltimore. Great environment, but obviously very symbolic to get to play the Naval Academy in this environment. What did that mean to you as the head coach of Notre Dame for the first time?
Well, it's a special rivalry, one that dates back so long and was built off of a relationship and built off of a agreement. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's special. And to be able to face those guys that will continue to serve our country, that will do great things for our country was something special. And obviously for me, my father being a Air Force veteran, it was a very special weekend.
You get ready for the football game, and when you play Navy that possessions are going to be at a premium. That's the big thing they do. We saw it in the second half, of course. But the first possession, you guys started off with a great drive, cap it off with that touchdown to Audric Estime. You guys, I think, have been getting off to much better starts offensively since the beginning of the season. What did you like on that drive, and how satisfied are you with the way you're starting games now?
It was a really satisfying drive just because it got into a point. It was a 4th-and-1 situation, and it was like, do we punt? It's the first fourth down of the game. It was 4th-and-1. I said, let's be aggressive. Let's go for it, and we were able to convert. And then a couple plays later, hit Audric versus an all-out pressure right up the middle. It was great execution, and that's how you got to start, and it really kind of propelled that whole first half to get 35 points.
You get 7 there, then you get the stop. Then on the next drive, and this is a guy I want to talk about, we're going to talk about two things. First, the touchdown catch by Braden Lenzy. Rank it as far as best catches you've ever seen. And then how great was it to see him kind of break out and have a performance, because he's a veteran on this team that maybe hasn't had the numbers he wanted this year, but he got a great game in this one against Navy.
Yeah, he's just a great example of resiliency and a guy that has just continued to prepare his tail off. That position of wide receiver is one you have to be unselfish, because you can do everything perfectly and never get a reward for it. And for him to get the reward because of the way he prepares and the way he executed the game was really great to see. As far as a catch, it's got to be one. I don't know if I've ever seen a catch like that. It kind of my view was kind of blocked from it when it happened in the game, but then I saw it on replay and I'm like, are you serious? For him to catch the ball like that, and it was a huge moment for us.
I got to say, I was most impressed. He pinned it on the back and then managed to just palm it with one hand. That's what really blew me away. So they get a touchdown to make it 14-6. You mentioned receiver being a position that you have to be unselfish and it takes a while to come along. I thought on this next drive, Deion Colsey a big catch, Jaden Thomas a big catch on 3rd and long. What excites you about the development of those two guys, but the whole room coming along here in the second half of the year?
Yeah, they're continuing to improve, and that's the challenge we have for our entire team, but that room specifically is how do we get better and better, and what they're doing is they're gaining confidence from their quarterback, and that every 3rd down, maybe you're not looking for 87, he might be be double or triple covered, and you have the confidence to go through your progression and be able to throw the ball to some of those wideouts. And so they're doing a great job of taking advantage of their opportunities, and they're helping us perform.
A little bit later in the second quarter, Navy had the ball back after one of your drives ended in a missed field goal. And I thought Clarence Lewis made a really impressive interception. We're going to get a chance to look at it in Irish Intel later, but the amount of ground he covered on that kind of trick play they tried to run, just tell me what you saw on that play and how impressive it was to see him go really sideline to sideline to make the pick.
Yeah, I kind of just saw them throw the reverse, and I'm like, okay, they're just running the reverse. And I couldn't see the quarterback, but I did see the guy that had the ball getting ready to set up the throw, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I looked, and out of nowhere, I see Clarence Lewis come out of nowhere and catch that ball, and it was a great play for us. I think it was on the first play of the possession. And so huge momentum shift, and that interception, the next play, we ended up scoring a touchdown to Jaden Thomas, and that was a huge play for us to kind of just settle down a little bit and extend this lead that we had.
We're going to get a chance to look at the play in Irish Intel too. We just talked about Jaden Thomas, but I thought maybe the best ball Drew's thrown, at least in this game and in a long time, on that route to Jaden down the middle. Just talk me through that play, and to get that touchdown, give you a 3-touchdown lead going into halftime had to be big.
Yeah, we actually ran that play earlier in the game, and Drew didn't hit him, but he was wide open. And so the ability for Coach Reese to call that play again where you can get Jaden one-on-one on a safety, and Jaden ran a great route to stick him outside and come inside, which we'll watch later. Drew put it right where it needed to be. Jaden made a great play, and through Drew, just the course of the season, some highs, some lows, and the ability for him to respond when things don't go well has been really good. And so for him to perform that way in the first half was tremendous, and it's been really good for our team.
Last one I have, it's Navy-centric too, is at the end of the game, it's one of the unique things you guys share in the alma maters with each other out there on the field. This is your first time as the head coach, but I know you were part of it last year. The symbolism of that, just what's it mean to you as the head coach at Notre Dame?
Well, it's special. It's a great reminder that this game we love doesn't define our lives, and that there's so much more to life than just a game of football, although at times we feel like this is the only thing that matters in life. And, to embrace and have that moment with that football team, to sing our alma mater and to sing their alma mater was a special moment. And it's a great reminder, but one you won't forget.
So Tariq, the defense over the last month, I think, has been playing really well. I know in the first 3 games you guys didn't have any takeaways, but now suddenly it seems like you guys are getting multiple takeaways each and every week. Just from your standpoint, what's been the biggest key to the change in you guys taking the ball away a little bit more?
We hone on it in practice. Coach always stresses about, it's all about the ball, anyway, whether punching it, getting an interception, whatever. It's just actually being intentional about your work. I think once we started doing that during the course of the season, we were able to get those turnovers, make big plays, score on defense. So just seeing it all come together, is great, and it builds confidence for our defense. So it's been going well so far.
You're one of the more solid and reliable players on the defensive side of the football, and you're someone who seems like you've gotten better every single year since you've been on campus. Just tell me, how have you as a player been able to evolve and improve every single year with Notre Dame?
Yeah, just trying to reflect back on the seasons before, what I need to work on, what are some weaknesses I can, make into strengths. So, just getting in the film room and practicing every day on the craft, and that's just, I want to get better every year, just always find something to get better at. And that's just with life in general. So, yeah, I think that's been helpful for me.
You've got some really talented young guys in the secondary, too, that are on this year's roster, and you're a veteran now. So what's your role been with them, trying to help them come along to the college level?
Trying to tell them, not to get too high or too low, especially in a position we play, There's some great receivers in college football, and sometimes, you're going to get beat for a touchdown, and that's just happened, that's part of ball. So just, trying to give them that mental side of the game, because talent's there, they came in during fall camp and they, proved themselves they belong on the field. So that's been a real help for our defense, being able to get in more DBs and safeties and being able to switch around.
I want to ask you about your time at Notre Dame. You're wrapping up here, finishing up your eligibility. You've been a part of some great moments. As you reflect upon your time here, just what are some of the moments that come to mind?
Just being in the locker room with the boys, those are memories you can't really, emulate and recreate. So having that is just great. And just my time here, all the people I've met, the connections I've been able to build, it's been great for me. This is my home, so my second home. So I cherish the moments that I have, with my brothers and all the friends that I've made.
Still a couple games left this season. I want to know from your standpoint, as a leader on this team, how do you make sure you guys finish this season the right way?
The whole team knows, finish strong. Coach Bayless, he's instilled that in us, since we got to school. So just being able to, I think we have a good understanding, being able to finish strong and just see where the rest of the season takes us.
Tariq, thanks for the time and appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
When we come back, we'll go inside the play with Irish Intel. It's now time for this week's edition of Irish Intel, where we go inside the play. Coach, this is the first touchdown of the game. Audric Estime is going to catch the ball out of the backfield. Explain to me how he gets so open and takes it into the end zone.
Well, I think at this moment we think we're getting all-out pressure, which we end up getting, but they pop a couple guys out, which you weren't really prepared for. Audric was able to slip inside, droop. That was a great ball here. We kind of ran a similar play earlier in the year, I think, versus Cal. It might have been to Tyree, but the ability to really just sneak him out versus this all-out pressure. This is an all-out pressure beater, and he does a really good job of getting inside that dropping defensive lineman, catching the ball, and going to score. And another thing that I didn't say is Drew's ability to drift here. Right, if you stay in the pocket and you just get your feet planted, you're going to take a sack. But Drew continues to drift back, and just gets
buying him time,
so Audric can get out.
So, Coach, this is a really big third down. You guys convert to extend a drive here that eventually leads to points. Deion Colsey's going to make the catch. He's really come on for you lately. Show me how he gets open.
Well, we knew third down, we were going to get all-out pressure. They were going to drop out guys. And right here, they're playing some zone coverage, and we wanted to hit the digs, which is about a 15-yard route behind the backers. And we have to have good protection here, but Deion does a great job of getting behind the dropping linebackers here into that open space between the linebackers and the safeties, and Drew throws a great ball here, and we have great protection.
So, Coach, this is an interception by Clarence Lewis. What impressed me most is that he starts on the far side of the field. I remember Kyle Hamilton last year covered a lot of ground. This is now a corner making the play. Explain to me what he reads and how it enables him to come over and make the pick.
Yeah, it's crazy how football works sometimes. In reality, this is a zero coverage, which means that Clarence Lewis has the guy that he's on right now, man to man. His guy goes on a reverse is what he's thinking, so he's going over top of the backers here. But what he's able to do is see the quarterback leak out, and so he kind of aborts and says, forget taking the guy that I had man to man. I'm going to get into a position where I can take this quarterback that's wide open. And it's a great play. You really don't draw it up this way, but it's a great football play. Some things that happen in football you can't draw up. You can't just practice every day a reverse pass to the quarterback, but the ability for Clarence to go over top of the backers and see the quarterback running free and improvise and make a play.
So is this almost the guy he was covering became the passer, and the passer then, he in his head just said, that's going to become my responsibility once he saw him leak out and came across the field to make the play?
Exactly right. That's a great way to put it.
Unbelievable. I can't believe it. Great play. Okay, Coach, fifth and final touchdown of the first half. You win the middle eight with this score to Jaden Thomas. Really, we're going to get a great look at it here. The route he runs, but also tell me the whole concept that leads to the score.
Yeah, right after the punt block, this was huge to get the ball on the 37-yard line. And we had done some research. They like to run some quarters coverage on P and 10. It's what first play of the possession. And what Jaden does is a great job of selling an inside slant route, gets the safety to bite a little bit, and then beats him vertical. And Drew throws another great ball here, and Jaden makes a great play. As you see it, the safety's still responsible for diving down it. If Jaden runs a slant here, the safety's responsible for making this play. He's got number 2 man-to-man almost in quarters. Now Jaden, what he does, he gets him to commit down, and then when he runs
slant, right
exactly
there.
right, and he runs right by him.
Wow. Welcome back to the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's Look Ahead, where we highlight. It's now time for this week's Look Ahead segment, and as always, we are joined by Bill Reese. Bill, appreciate you taking the time here for our final show of the year. Let's start with last week's game. Notre Dame had a phenomenal first half. In fact, I've heard a lot of the dialogue around this has maybe been on the glass half empty side, but I look at this game and I think about all the outstanding points that were put on the board in the first half. 5 touchdowns. Drew Pine accounted for all of them. Just what was your general takeaway from a first half that featured a lot of offensive positives for Notre Dame?
Well, we wanted to get off to a fast start, and we did. We scored on 5 of our first 6 possessions, a good mix of run and pass, and Drew did a nice job of taking what the defense was given. We had a couple of shots that, were successful. Braden Lindsey made an unbelievable catch. Jane Thomas the same way down the middle of the field. So, it was really a good start for us and something that we wanted to do. And, anytime you can score 35 points in one half, you're highly, highly efficient.
Let's talk about receiver. That's a position you just brought up. And I know it's been an area that maybe they've not produced as much as they've wanted to this point in the season. But this, I thought, was a great game, an example of how you have a guy like Lindsey, who has been with the program for a long time, makes the phenomenal catch, like you said. And then also you've got Thomas and Colsey, who have stepped into roles that I think they popped a little bit. This is what I think the fan base is excited about going forward. What was your takeaway of a first half that featured more receivers than we've become accustomed to this year, that maybe showed us what the future looks like at that position?
Well, Braden, you're really happy for him because, he's put in a lot of work, a lot of time. He's had, some good moments, and he's had, some frustrating moments as well. But he really showed up on Saturday in Baltimore. His speed, just his overall competitiveness has been really good. He's really hung in there, and we're going to need him down the stretch here because he brings such speed to the position. And then with Colsey and JT, they're just, two young players, haven't played a whole lot, but they're starting to come into their own. And, Colsey had two really big third down catches, deep in routes, did a real nice job of feeling the zone there and getting open. And, of course, JT has really had some really good moments already this year. He's starting to build on it, becoming more confident. So those two guys in particular have been really impressive.
After the Clemson game, the way that Notre Dame ran the ball, the discussion was about how great this running attack was and that maybe the confidence wasn't there in Drew Pine. But I thought the first half was a great demonstration of how confident they were that when there was an opportunity to throw against a team that might not defend the pass so well, they put the ball in Drew's hands. 16 passes. Again, he completed 14 of them. What do you think that said about the confidence the team has in Drew Pine that if it's time to throw the ball, we're going to put it in your hands and let you do it?
Well, the team and the coaches have a great deal of confidence in Drew, and he stepped up Saturday, did really an outstanding job. There's some throws I know in the second half he would have liked to have had back, but all in all, when you look at his final stat line, it's extremely impressive. When you put up 35 points, you feel pretty good about your performance.
On the defensive side of the ball, I thought one of the most impressive plays, and I got a chance to see the replay from the all-22 angle of Clarence Lewis coming all the way across the field to intercept the ball. Reminded me a little bit of that Kyle Hamilton interception from a year ago, but he really diagnosed that trick play on the fly and made a great individual play to go intercept that ball. I think Clarence Lewis has done a great job kind of adjusting to that new role this year and has made some really big plays, some that don't even show up in the box score. There was a game, I don't know if it was maybe Clemson or Syracuse, where he shoved a receiver out of bounds on a big third down. Just what have you seen from Clarence this year that's allowed him to flourish in this role?
Clarence has a lot of versatility. He's a really tough guy, focuses well during the game, and that versatility really benefits him in a lot of different ways. And that was a great call by Navy. It was, perfectly set up. The quarterback was open, but, what happened was, he saw it, he got in front of it and made a huge play. And, he's got a lot of savvy to him, a lot of just good football instinct. And that really shows up in the way he plays.
Special teams, once again, we have to talk about it. They block another punt. When I was talking to Coach Freeman, I think what I brought up was that it seems like it's someone different that's blocking every punt. You got Foskey, Lewis, Kaiser this week. The list goes on and on. We're getting to the point, Bill, where it feels like we're expecting at least one blocked punt a game. That's what they've done the last 5 games, even more than one per game technically. Again, in the building, what's kind of the sense around the way the special teams are playing right now?
Well, the sense is it really gives the team a lift, and it's a huge play in the football game. The opponent knows it's coming, and they're trying to do the best they can to get rid of it. But sometimes the pressure is just too much. The scheme is exactly how it's drawn up on the board. They're very rarely tricked. They're well prepared. They know how to do the particular rush. They do it very well. And, it's become a real sense of pride, within the building is the punt block team. So it's great to build on that.
Last one I have is just about kind of how a staff can handle a result like this. I always hear coaches, it's much easier to kind of coach up some of the mistakes after a game like this. You get the win, which is the most important thing, but you have a second half that maybe leaves a little bit to be desired. You can now get some points across that if you just ran away with it in the second half, those points might not stick. So you've been around the game for a long time. What are the ways the staff usually communicates after a game like this where you get the win, but you can point to a lot of things that recently happened you can work on?
Well, there's no question that there were some lessons to be learned from that game. And, you really have to give Navy a lot of credit. They did not quit. There was almost a sense of desperation there at the end of the game, in the second half, where, they were going to do whatever it took to stop us. They were going to do whatever it took to move the ball. They were down to their third quarterback, and they just kept fighting. And, that's a great lesson for our players. It's a 60-minute game. No matter what the score is, you got to play every play. And, I thought for the most part, we competed, and, it wasn't the way we had planned it, but at the end of the day, it was a W. And, they're a hard opponent to prepare for, to play. And, we're just really pleased we got the win, and we're on to BC this week.
Let's talk about BC this week. I think Notre Dame fans, whenever they see Boston College on the schedule, they get a little uneasy because they've spoiled the party before. It's obviously a great rivalry with the two Catholic institutions that have a great history. I know they haven't had a particularly outstanding year, but they're coming off a great win on the road at NC State, kind of come from behind fashion in the final seconds. Just big picture, when BC shows up, and especially coming off the win they had, what does that tell you about the team that's coming into South Bend this weekend?
Well, again, it's a very competitive group. They're well coached. They're going to be highly motivated. They're coming off a big win against a ranked team at their stadium. It was senior night there in Raleigh. So, they've seen this movie before. So they know, what's going to be expected of them, how they're going to have to play. When you look at certain phases of their football team, they've been outstanding at points during the season. So, they're always a tough out. They're extremely motivated team coming in here, and we expect them to play, their best football of the season.
Let's talk about quarterback. Obviously, Phil Jurkovec was a former Notre Dame quarterback who's at BC. He's battled some injuries throughout the year, and the comeback was not led by Phil. It was Emmett Moorhead who led the comeback. So I guess just from, we don't have to prognosticate who you might see on Saturday, but let's talk Moorhead and just what he did in that game against NC State. If Notre Dame fans see him, what can they expect from this guy that led that big comeback for him?
Well, he's a big, sturdy pocket quarterback, does a nice job running the offense. He's got a big arm. He really has gotten more confidence as the season went on. And then he led a 2-minute drive to win the game at North Carolina State last weekend. So his confidence is going to be high. And, he's got a lot of trust in his receivers. His tight end, obviously, George Takis was here a year ago, was a good player here at Notre Dame. So, he's got some weapons along, obviously with Zay Flowers. So, he's taking advantage of the players around him.
I was just going to ask you about Zay Flowers, because it's hard to believe when you have Clemson on the schedule that the best receiver you might see all year might not be on the Clemson roster, which just tells you how good Zay Flowers is. I know he projects to be a very high draft pick. So let's just first give Notre Dame fans an idea of what he does so well to make such a matchup nightmare for a defense, and then how you can try to approach possibly stopping him in the passing game.
Well, he can hurt you at all levels of the field. He can run reverses. He can take a short pass, turn it into a big play. He can run by you. He's an excellent route runner, very confident hand catcher, and extremely competitive when the ball's in the air. And, I'm not sure that there's a better receiver we've seen in the last couple of years. He's that good. So, we'll have our work cut out for us to, get him contained. It's one of those things where he's going to get his catches, his touches. We're just going to have to get him to the ground.
Defensively, when you look at BC, I look at what Notre Dame's gone up against the last couple of weeks, two really good rushing defenses on paper coming in, and they've approached them two different ways. So we've seen Notre Dame commit to the run game, then last week jump out, throw the ball. Just what will Boston College try to do defensively, and what challenges do they present on that side of the ball?
I think each week every team is going to say, hey, we got to stop the running game of Notre Dame. So they'll do what they can. They'll, crowd the line of scrimmage. They'll, maybe have, different personnel groupings to try to match up with, some of our different formations. Overall, they're just a very sound coach team. Jeff Hafley was a defensive coordinator. His fingerprints are all over the defense. They are really good in the secondary. They do a nice job of reading your routes, collisioning receivers, getting them off timing. So it's it's a well coached defensive front, and in the back as well.
The last thing I have is just about Senior Day. This is, of course, the final home game of the season. Marcus Freeman was asked about it in his press conference. I thought he had a really interesting answer about how this is his first senior class. I think there's a sentiment that a lot of coaches might respond to their first senior class, maybe being the first class they brought in and they saw them all the way through. But I think he spoke to basically how he felt embraced by a class that he didn't recruit. A different coach brought them in, and they've embraced him and helped lay the foundation for what he's trying to build here in the program under his direction. So just from a holistic standpoint, what does Senior Day mean? And specifically for this class that, of course, went through the coaching change last year and is going to play their final game in Notre Dame Stadium this weekend?
Well, I think Senior Day is special. This group of seniors, they've been together through a lot of big victories. They've had great moments together, and it's great for the families to see all the hard work get paid in full. And it's just a great day, not only for the families, the players, the university. It's just really a nice way to end your career by playing your last home game before a big crowd at Notre Dame Stadium. It's special. And, I know the players really look forward to it.
Well, Bill, that does it for us this week and for this season. As always, I really do appreciate you taking time to preview the upcoming opponent every week. I always learn a lot. So thank you so much, and look forward to doing it again next year.
That'll be great. Thanks, Tony.
We now present the highlights from a recent Coach Freeman press conference.
Marcus, I'm curious, as you prepare for a cold weather game on Saturday, what's been your balance in preparing indoors and outdoors? And as a follow-up, what's been the reaction of some of your freshmen from warmer climes to this kind of weather? I'm thinking of somebody like Ben Morrison.
Yeah, you embrace it. The first thing I told him Tuesday, I was like, we're practicing outside. And it's prepare your mind for it. We're going outside, and so we practice all day Tuesday outside. Yesterday was just going to be a little bit too wet. I wanted to stay outside all week, but yesterday, because of the snow, it was just too wet. So I wanted to get good work. So on a third down day and the things we had to work on yesterday, we decided to go inside. And then today we'll be back outside. So again, it's just understanding that we're going to practice outside. We're going to play outside, dress warm, and go play. If you dress appropriately, it won't be an issue. If you try to be a tough guy, there's no such thing as cold tough guys. And that's what I told him. You better be a warm tough guy. And so make sure you dress appropriately and go practice and go play.
Next question will be from Mike Berardino.
Hey, Marcus. Wondering if you could speak to how Jarrett Patterson's legacy should be viewed and how what he's meant to you in your term. And then the frustration that he showed at the end of Marshall. I know you had no problem with it at the time, but in some way, did that serve a purpose? Did that, considering the turnaround that followed?
Yeah, I would say J-Pat, the best way to describe him is the ultimate Ironman. Just a guy that has battled injuries, multiple injuries even before I got here, but has continued to sacrifice his body, continued to work and plays the game at such a high level. He till to this day he's not 100%. He's been injured all season, but he just goes out there and he practices and he plays and he could easily be a guy that says, you know what, I'm not going to play. I'm going to wait to the NFL and I'm going to save my body. And he doesn't. He sacrifices his body for this university and this football program. So, again, I'm forever in debt to Jarrett Patterson. He's a great captain, a great leader for our program. The frustration he showed after Marshall is what is expected by any competitor that loses a game you don't feel like you should lose. And, he is a great leader, and he was emotional after a tough loss, but he's also a guy that can raise the play of others and raise the mentality of others, and that's important. That's what leaders do. Leaders make other people better, and that's what Jarrett Patterson is.
Next question will be from Tim Priester.
Coach, we had an opportunity to talk to Jason Adamalola this week, and he seems to be grateful for everything that he's experienced at Notre Dame. He's a pretty unique personality. What's it been like coaching him, both as a head coach and as a coordinator? And secondly, I wanted to follow up about your procedure for senior day. You talked about only the guys that are definitely leaving will be announced, but I don't think that you're not saying that they have to make a decision by Saturday. Could you clarify that, please?
Yeah, as far as Jason, man, he is he's a lot of fun to coach. He is so energetic, and it's unique having a set of twins on your team, and he plays at a high level. He enjoys practicing, which is something that not everybody does, man. And he's a joy to coach, and he's a really good football player, and he's very productive for us. As far as the senior day, at the beginning of the year, I wanted the guys that planned on this being their last year to just say, hey, this is my last year. I'm going to be a senior, because we do some different things with our seniors throughout the season, in terms of fall camp, in terms of, recognizing them in different ways. And so, there's one or two guys that have an option after the season, after they get their NFL grade reports, if they decide to come back or not. They don't have to. What I don't want them to do is to not participate in senior day and then decide to go to the NFL, and so if there's a possibility of this being your last year of playing football, I want you to be a part of senior day, and those will be the guys that will be recognized on Saturday.
Next question will be from Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to just catch up on a few guys in various stages of a couple guys that were iffy going into the week, Brandon Joseph and Jack Kaiser, and then more long-term Aiden Kiana, Kane Barong, and Tyler Buckner, what their stages of recovery are.
You have to work with me. So B. Joe is doubtful for this game. Kaiser is probable. And then Aiden, you said Aiden, who else, Eric?
Aiden and also Kane Barong and Tyler Buckner.
Aiden, Kane, and Buckner. Aiden's been doing scout team. Again, he's back and really been doing a good job for us on scout team. He's still, do I think Aiden's 100%? Probably not yet, but he's been helping us in terms of giving us a great look on scout team and really working his way back into playing shape and his football shape that he needs to be in. He's a guy that I could see, possibly trying to help us during the bowl game. Kane Barron's been practicing. He's been getting reps with the offense and some special teams reps, and he's doing a really good job and is pretty much back. And then Tyler Buckner's just, he's practicing, doing some individual stuff, not wearing pads and stuff like that, but he's participating in parts of practice, and then other parts of practice he's, doing some rehab still.
Reminder to use the raise hand function to ask questions. This will be your last call if we don't have any more. We'll go to Patrick Engel.
Marcus, if I can go even deeper on the injury front, I know we've seen Jaden Bellamy and Will Schweitzer in street clothes on game days. I'm wondering if those guys have been dealing with some longer-term injuries, if you can clarify that.
Bellamy is still dealing with a head injury. He got a concussion, and so he's still working his way back through concussion protocol. Will Schweitzer had a medical procedure done probably about a month ago, and so he hasn't been cleared yet to participate in football yet, but we'll see sometime and maybe after this season if he's cleared and where he's at.
Next question will be from Tyler Horka.
Hey, Marcus, I just want to ask you about a guy who transferred in, and this will be his only year at Notre Dame, John Sott. Obviously, coming from a program like Harvard, you don't think football anymore when you think Harvard, but he's been a guy that's obviously been very helpful for you guys, influential. I'm curious, how would you describe John Sott, the football player? And then if you've got to know him a little bit as well, how would you describe him as a person?
He's a quiet but confident kid. He doesn't talk too much, but he does have some confidence about him. I really enjoy the time I get to spend with John. He's been a huge part of our punting game and changing the field, and he's been a huge addition to our program. With Bryce going down early in the year, we didn't have a punter. And so thankfully we had John Stott here that did a really good job. And, he actually won the job in fall camp and has done a great job for us all season long. So he's been such a valuable tool for our program and for our punt team. And I'm thankful that he was a part of our football program this year.
Next question will be from Sean Stiers.
Hey, Marcus, just you were pretty optimistic about J.D. Bertrand earlier this week, and just wondered, is he definitely a go this week?
100% a go.
Final question today will be from Len Clark.
Marcus, you talked about the legacy of Jared Patterson, but can you talk about your first class and the foundation that they'll pour for the future of Notre Dame football?
It's, again, I think I addressed it on Monday in terms of this group has truly laid the foundation for where I see this football program going forward. And it hasn't been just a smooth road. It's been a bumpy one that has had some ups and downs, but what they've done is preserved and they've helped us really understand how to get through those tough times. I think, the culture of your program is truly defined during some of the toughest times. And what this group has done is really taken this team and propelled us forward. And we've gotten better through some of those bumps in the road. And without the leadership that they've provided, without the work ethic and the example they've set, we wouldn't have been able to truly improve through those ups and downs. And so they've done such a great job of, through changes in leadership, through wins and through losses, being able to continue to keep the mindset of this football program and these players where it needs to be. And that's constant improvement. And, when your leaders are every day coming in here trying to improve and trying to get better, you know what, there's no other option for those young guys that, sometimes they see better than they hear. And the greatest example they see is our leaders and our seniors.
Coach, you get ready for Boston College here. 2 regular season games left. This is going to be senior day, of course, in Notre Dame Stadium. So as you get ready for BC, what's the focus on how you guys are trying to send the seniors off with a good taste in their mouth?
Yeah, there's nothing more important than making sure we finish this home finale here the right way and seeing the seniors off the right way, as you said. And it's going to come down to preparation. It's going to come down to making sure we are prepared and we're ready to go, and that we go out and we play at a high level on Saturday. And it's a great challenge we have ahead of us. The best thing that could have happened was Boston College beat North Carolina State because they have our attention. And then you turn on the film and you realize they're a really good football team too. And so we have a great challenge, which every week usually for us is a great challenge, and we're excited for it here at Notre Dame Stadium.
10 games in to your first season. What are the things that come to mind? What's maybe the main emotion or the main memory you have so far this year when you think back to your first season as a head coach?
Well, I think I said this to the team last week. It says you got to stay in the middle. And what's that mean is that victory and defeat cannot sway you off of the preparation of the things that matter. Mm-hmm. And you cannot let things that don't dictate the future of the next game impact you. And after 2 games here, you might have thought the world was falling. And the ability for our guys to be resilient, to stay the course, to continue to fix the mistakes that we've had and address the issues is a big reason why we've had a turnaround. And so it's every week's challenging. Every week presents its new set of challenges. But as long as we are urgent in terms of how to fix the mistakes, in terms of how we evaluate and everything we do, we'll have a great chance to be successful.
Coach, appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the season. We'll talk to you next year.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for this season of Inside Notre Dame Football, presented by TireRack.com. That does it for this week's edition of the Marcus Freeman Show, and thanks for listening all season long. We'll talk to you next year.